Hey, it's me. I just got done watching The Hobbit, and it's about 3 in the morning or so. And I'm by myself too. I feel I should actually probably address that, because of all movies that I went to go see this year, this one I didn't want to go see by myself. I definitely wanted to have somebody else here to go see this movie. Really, mainly just for, like, objective purposes. I definitely wanted to have someone here who maybe is more of a fan of this series than I am, knows more about it than I do, or maybe has even read the books, be it Dave, Alex, any of them, really. So I definitely didn't necessarily I didn't want to be here by myself doing this, because I'll admit, I mean, if you saw the video last year on the previous Hobbit film, I flat out said in that video, the movies aren't necessarily my taste, and I definitely really didn't care much for the first, Hobbit movie. It's almost kind of weird that I'm doing this one by myself, considering how I think the midnight screening review for the first one, I think there was like 4 of us, maybe. There was like me, Jillian, Dave, and Irving, and honestly, I don't think I said like nearly a word in that thing until maybe like 20 minutes in, because I wanted them to have their go at it, because not only is it more so their cup of tea, but I didn't really have that much to say about the first one, really. They could definitely be a lot more analytical about it than I necessarily could have been, with them being fans of the series and also fans of the book as well. So here I am to talk about The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. And, well, what did I think of it? Honestly, I'm not bullshitting right now. I'm so not. I honestly really kind of loved this movie. From beginning to end, this movie, more so than any movie in this series, actually fucking gripped my ass and fucking took me on a roller coaster ride that was near 3 hours long, and for the first time didn't fucking feel like it. It kept me, this is very cliche to say this fucking line in a movie review, but it did keep me on my fucking toes, man. It did keep me on my seat. I'm trying really hard not to say keep me on the edge of my seat. But it was an intense flick. I'm not kidding. I really, really dug the fuck out of this movie. Every problem I had with the first Hobbit movie, I didn't in this movie, like, at all. It was either a problem that was fixed, or if it was still there, it didn't really fucking bother me all that much. There's characters in this movie that, for all intents and purposes, I didn't care that much for in the first one. But in this, okay, Thorin, who I thought was just a fucking wet blanket in the first movie, is actually my favorite fucking character in this. Actually has a pretty good arc in this movie, and is likable, and is charismatic, and is fun. The movie's just fun. It had me from the very fucking beginning of it. When they're hiding out from a beast who can turn into a bear and then chases him across the field. It opens with a bear chasing him across the field, and it turns out it's Baron. Oh, they fucking just cut him out of Russian the Hobbit. He's not in there at all. I like how this movie really covers, like, minute 30 to, like, well, honestly, to, like, minute, like, 65 probably of Russian the Hobbit. The third Hobbit movie is really going to be the last 5 minutes of Russian the Hobbit. So basically what I'm coming down to here is that the movie starts out with Manimal. And you know what? When you start out with Manimal, when you throw in Dr. Jonathan Chase in there at the beginning of the movie, alright, you've piqued my interest, movie. And I honestly am very tired right now. That's another reason why I tried really hard to find someone to go with me to this movie. One, because I did want someone to be more analytical than I could in comparing it to maybe the other movies of the series from a fan perspective, and also maybe from them being a fan of the book. But not only that, I didn't sleep very well last night. I woke up pretty fucking early and couldn't get back to sleep, and I wanted so hard to take a nap throughout the day, but got busy with a lot of shit and just couldn't. And so for that reason too, I really did want to find someone else who could maybe talk more about it than me. And, well, the reason why, it's kind of funny, I couldn't find someone else to go see this, but I find two people to see Medea. Reason being, Medea was like at 10:30 at night. This one's literally at midnight. When we do the first summer we did this series, they were all at midnight. They were literally at midnight. Second summer, like, half of them were, half of them weren't. Anymore, they're at, like, 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. It's very rare that one is actually at midnight anymore, which really does benefit us, because, you know, people work the next day, so it's easier for them to come out and see a pre-screening that's earlier. So that was honestly kind of the case here. Sarah couldn't, she's got to work early the next day. Dave and Brian were at Medea. I asked Alex, he's got to work early. I never did hear back from Ryan. He probably looked at the phone and be like, well, that's a stupid question. He knows I've got to fucking work tomorrow. Click. Jake couldn't do it. Again, you work in the morning. My lazy ass doesn't have to do shit tomorrow except post these videos. Like, it's gonna be dawn by the time I go to sleep. So, I am on 3 hours of sleep, and with, you know, icy. When I'm tired at the movie, that's when I get the icy. So, me not really looking forward to this movie, and not liking the first one, and being on a huge lack of sleep, and I still fucking loved this movie. So anytime in the future, when I don't like something, if you try telling me I'm too tired, or I saw it too late, or I wasn't looking forward to it, or if I'm just not a fan of the series, so, where was I fucking going with that story? Oh, and then, okay, this whole movie, honestly, is just simply, really just a beautiful piece of filmmaking. The whole sequence in this movie, at the beginning, there's probably about a 20-minute sequence when they're in the woods. I'm not Spoonie, man, I'm sorry, I can't name places, certain names, voices, stuff like that. He could, he's a thesaurus on this, he could tell me exactly what these different places are. I mean, no, not really. So when they're in the woods, Spider Woods, I'm sure that's the technical name for it. So when they're in Spider Woods, that whole sequence, one, was pretty fucking scary, and made me jump quite a fucking bit out of my goddamn seat, and it was beautiful. The whole scenery, when he's looking over the trees at the landscape, looking at this whole woods, like, just encased in spider webs, and I'm not, like, I don't have arachnophobia. I'm not afraid of spiders. Like, yeah, every group of friends have, like, they have, like, about 8 people who are scared of spiders, and then there's, like, a couple people who just aren't. I'm not. I actually find spiders to be pretty cool creatures, to be quite honest. But, but these spiders were pretty terrifying. When they're fucking biting at the goddamn screen in 3D, I'll get to the 3D in a second, in goddamn 3D, and they're fucking spitting shit at you, and fucking winding shit up in fucking webs. I'm sitting there in the theater like, I'm cringing at this. I'm getting a little creeped out by this. I am jumping like crazy. I can't fucking imagine, if I'm doing that, I can't fucking imagine Dave's sitting there, who is not a fan of spiders. Dave's sitting there, or Jake, or any of the people in our group who don't like being around spiders. I can't fucking imagine what they will be fucking doing in that scene. I have to go down to the basement several times to either mess around with the fuse box or grab a box or something, because there's some spiders in our basement. And Dave doesn't like going in the basement because of the spiders. So I go down there and say hi to the spiders and mess with the fuse box. But I'm not fucking with those goddamn spiders. They're as big as my house. So that from right there, I was like, this movie really has me. I am sold on this so far. Man, I really hope it keeps this up, because I want to like this movie. That's the thing, too. Like, if I came out and didn't like this movie, it isn't that I would want to dislike it, because no one wants to go sit at a 164-minute movie and not like it. That would be fucking miserable. No one would fucking want that. I certainly didn't fucking want that. And I was still kind of worried a little, because like in the first Hobbit movie, I did kind of like the first half hour of it, but oh god, it just fucking lost me. It was boring. This one, no. Like, it really didn't let up at all. And I know a lot of people, like, they complain that they want to see more Peter Jackson movies, like the ones he did back when, movies like Bad Taste, Dead Alive, Meet the Feebles, stuff like that. Yeah, hell, I do too. I prefer those Peter Jackson movies. But, with that being said, it's not like you can't see his stamp on this fucking movie. The violence in this is slapsticky as hell, and it's very funny. The movie is consistently very, very funny. It's funny when it needs to be, it's scary when it needs to be, it's intense, but it doesn't feel at all like it's... it doesn't feel like a giant whiplash of a tonal shift at all. When it's funny, it's because the characters are just genuinely really funny. And when it's scary, it's because they're fighting giant goddamn scary spiders. That's why it's fucking scary. And then you got Smaug at the end of this, who's way better in this than in the Russian version. That's great. That's another thing. I was watching this scene, and I was reminded of, like, in the first one, the scene with him and Gollum. And I remember thinking in that scene, like, this scene just is going on a while. Like, for the first 5 minutes it was fine, but then it just kept going. And then in this, when you have, I don't want to say similar scene, but a scene of Bilbo talking to Smaug, and there's a lot of dialogue back and forth between the two of them. In this one, it just gripped me a lot more than it did in the other one. I don't know. To me, it felt necessary, whereas the other one felt like it just went too long. And Benedict Cumberbatch doing the voice was chilling. I don't know if it necessarily had to be Benedict Cumberbatch. I mean, with as much post-production as they're doing on that voice, it could have been Dr. Claw who did it, but like, the voice, it sounds a little like a cross between like Alan Rickman and Tim Curry. Like, listen to it. You can hear a little Dr. Frankenfurter in there a couple of times. But it's a really chilling character, quite honestly. And whereas in the first one, I remember thinking in the first one, like, that the movie, I was like, for a movie called The Hobbit, it's not really fucking about The Hobbit. And you know what? This one is kind of like that too, in that, like, the first act and the last act are definitely Bilbo-centric, and the middle, not really so much. There's probably a period of an hour that goes by in this movie where he has, like, only 1 or 2 lines. But again, in this one, I didn't mind it so much, because the characters were just more likable. The action was more exciting. The action was funnier in this, where you have a barrel rolling over like 30 orcs. It's funny, and they're hiding in fish, and I laughed my ass off in this movie. And so, anyway, this one works so much more as an ensemble piece, because I really loved all of these characters. I did. I genuinely did like seeing them all interact together and work together. I didn't mind the fact that in the first one, I really didn't like Thorin all that much, but in this one, I totally did. And I don't know, you're probably wondering right now that because I liked this movie, does that mean that now I'm cool with it being a 9-hour series of movies that's split up from a 300-page book? No, that's not what it means. I still don't really think that that's fucking necessary. And honestly, like, this isn't a perfect movie. I mean, it is still long. You could still probably shave about 20 minutes off of this. The climax, a lot of the action at the end, the climax, it does kind of go on a little bit. The climax does. But the cliffhanger that it left with at the end and the last couple of lines were chilling and honestly made it pretty worth it. There are things in it that I think easily probably could have been. I don't know if Legolas had to be in this movie and this kind of love triangle. Yeah, because every goddamn fucking series of movies needs a fucking love triangle now. I'm sorry, I don't know if that's from the book or not, but anyway, that Legolas didn't need to... Wait, Legolas isn't even in the Hobbit book, is he? Correct me on that if I'm wrong. The stuff with Legolas didn't necessarily need to be in this, him and Evangeline Lilly. But here's the thing, though. I didn't mind when they were on screen. And that's the difference between this one and the first one. In the first one, when there was something that I really just didn't fucking need to be there, it felt like goddamn padding. Because it was goddamn padding. And I know it comes from other material like the appendices and things like that, but call it whatever you want. It's fucking padding. If it looks like padding and feels like padding, it's fucking padded out to make it a fucking trilogy. In this one, though, yeah, when there was stuff in there that probably, yeah, could have been left on the cutting room floor, I didn't mind, because the characters I liked. I like Evangeline Lilly in this movie quite a goddamn bit, and Orlando Bloom is just fucking competent for once in the fucking movie, and has some pretty fun fight scenes with some really, really funny decapitations, too. He decapitates a flying orc in midair. That was really cool. So yeah, stuff like that, when it showed up, it didn't really take me out of it. It didn't feel like a drag. It's certainly there to make it longer and make it a trilogy, but it just worked for me this time, and it didn't work in the other one. But with all that being said, yeah, I did really like this movie a lot, and I highly, highly fucking recommend it. But with that being said, I mean, by the time all three of these movies come out, at the end, let's say I like the third one just as much as I like this one. Does that then mean that it's okay for there to be this 9-hour series of movies based on this material? Not really, because honestly, I would rather have, with the right editing, I would rather have 2 great films than one fucking dull one and then 2 good ones that follow that. Like, yeah, I like this movie a lot, but it is still a drag that the first installment of this trilogy was honestly kind of torturous to sit through. And it isn't, it's not that I think that the first one was like a bad film. Like, there's no way that the first one ever would have come close to like my worst of the year list or anything like that. The first one is just the kind of movie that I can chalk up to, it wasn't for me. And if it was like it, that strictly felt like a fan film, like for hardcore fans. This one doesn't. And it's better for it, because the first film was, if you're not fucking diehard into that, like, that was, I'm fucking repeating myself like fucking crazy. I'm sorry. I'm tired. So the ends really don't justify the means in that. I think that two great films would have been, a lot better than if you have one in there that's just fucking dull. That's just my opinion, though. But that doesn't take away from the fact that, honestly, this is one of the most entertaining movies I've seen this year. It's one of the most exciting. It's one of the most thrilling. It's one of the most likable movies as well. It really is. I'm happy I like this. I'm surprised I liked it. Yeah. And I'm happy I liked it, because as tired as I've been all day, I wasn't looking forward to this. I'll admit it. I wasn't. And I know I made a thing earlier about how, like you can't get mad at me for saying I'm fucking tired when I didn't like the movie. But let's say I didn't like this, and you were like, oh, you might have just been too tired. You know what? I don't know about that. Like, I don't know about that. There have been times when I've been angrier at a movie because I was really tired, but it didn't make the difference between me liking it and not liking it. I'll admit, I was probably angrier at Epic because I was really tired, but I wouldn't have liked that movie if I was awake. Hang on, I think that... Is the battery really... Oh, there's 5 minutes. How long did they talk about Medea? Alright, I got 5 minutes of battery left on here, so I'm really sorry. I might have to cut this short and not talk about trailers. Let's talk about the 3D real quick. The 3D, I remember not caring much for the 3D in the first movie, but that might have kind of been our theater, because I heard other people really like the 3D in the first one. The 3D in this, really fucking worth it. You got fucking fire shooting at your face, bees flying around at you, crazy spiders gnawing at your face, shooting acidy spit at you, shooting webs and shit. It's worth seeing. This one's worth seeing in 3D. By fucking far is it worth seeing in 3D. And here's the funny thing too. I actually still have the, you can't see that, but it says Hobbit right there. An Unexpected Journey, or whatever the first one was called. It says, these are the same 3D glasses from the fucking first one. I didn't intend to save these. They're just sitting on my desk, and I must have just forgot to throw them away or something. But at first I was like, oh, fuck, I still have these, but I lost my Dread ones. God damn it, why the fuck? Well, they have new ones, too, that say Hobbit Desolation of Smaug. So I guess by the time the third one comes out, for some reason, I'll have a collection of all three of the Hobbit 3D glasses, but I'm still kind of bummed out that I lost my ones that said Dread on them. God damn it. No, I am really glad I like this movie. So I have to wrap this up, because I think that the sun might come up soon, and also I've only got a few minutes battery, so okay, I do have to wrap this up. I'm sorry I can't go longer, but I highly recommend this movie. If you're... Use me as an example here. If you're put off from seeing this because of how you felt about the first one, don't be. Just forget that. Forget the problems you had with the first film. Go in this with a clean fucking slate. Go in this to have a really good time. Go to it to have the good time that you thought you might have had at the first movie and really didn't. You might surprise yourself. You might be surprised. Again, use my opinion as an example on that, definitely. And if you already liked the first one, you'll like this. I'm assuming you will also like this movie too, because it's a lot more goddamn exciting and likable and better written and better structured, better paced, better every fucking thing. It feels like a film. Yeah, it's long, but it's not nearly as fucking bloated as the first one, or as self-indulgent either. This is a damn good movie. So go see it. I've got less than a minute on here. Alright, I'll see you guys. Next week is I think it's American Hustle and Anchorman 2. I believe. So, alright. I'll see you guys later.